I think we're going to start soon. There's one general thing that I would like to hide. This is session 9. There is one thing that I like to specifically mention, that when we do exercises like this, it's not necessarily, the result is not necessarily feeling great. I would like you to recommend that you trust that if you're doing the exercise pretty much engaged, then whatever comes up, you can trust. It's the same exercise that will get you through it. So it would be better to keep doing the exercise, because that's where also the transformation is. Well, unless you're really sick or so, you need to stop, but there's not something else that you need to do. One experience that I had when we were, it doesn't matter so much what we were doing, was an exercise where I became so numb that I couldn't even move anymore. So I don't know if you have experience like that, but I literally could not get up. I was sitting down, we were standing, and I had to sit down, and I couldn't get up. So it's a little scary, like, will I never be able to get up anymore? So another experience you may have is that you are gone. And you are not, but where you are is in the lower layers of mind. So for didactic purposes, in the Tibetan tradition, they say there is at least 9 layers of mind. So when we do Kumne, you want to go in, because you're going to go through those layers. There's the layer of seeing, the layer of hearing, the layer of smelling, the layer of tasting. They're not layers, you know, it could be like a kaleidoscope, or it could be all like this. But for didactic purposes, you can say there are layers of 6 consciousnesses, the 5 senses plus thinking, that's already 6. And then there are more layers that you may have when you're meditating. You think, oh, something is happening, this could become a thought. If you're like me, I don't do that now anymore, but I used to say, let me quickly think that thought, and then I start to practice. Do you have that? Well, that's in the 7th and 8th layer. Let me think it quickly. Something like tomorrow I start to diet, right? So there's 9 layers. When you go down, there is a layer that is, there's nothing. It's a void. It's a black hole. You feel you are going to, or you have, or you will disappear. It's a layer of mind. That, the goal of meditation is to clear that layer. And the only way to do it is to not label experience, because then you get into the upper 6, and to go deeper. So not label experience is really in Kumne meditation the technique. Okie dokie? So if you get scared, it's because you're hitting this layer. When you fall asleep, you're going into that layer. You think, oh, thank God, I would like to go to sleep and forget about the world, right? Wouldn't you like to sleep? And no more worries, no more troubles. It's true. But you're going to wake up, boom, and they're back. So, but there's a moment of reprieve. There's a moment of nothingness. It's not a restful state. Don't think that that state is restful. It's not, because it starts to whirl, it starts to stir, and that's when the dreams start to come up.
What layer was that you said?
Then you're in the 9th. So we want to go through all 9, and on the other side there is the nature of mind as it is when it's not polluted by any of the other ones, when it's not affected or impacted. Then when you have touched that and you come back, you can see without labeling, you can smell without labeling, you can experience the sunset without remembering of another sunset that was nice too, or telling somebody, or being lost in thought while you're looking at the sunset. That layer, that is a tricky layer. And sometimes you can get through it quickly and then you get lost in it. It's scary. One moment you experience it is when people are nodding. You don't want to nod your whole life doing these exercises. Right? If you're doing this for 20, 30 years, this is okay, but it's a transition. That's not the goal. So you need to stand up, put up your chest, begin to breathe lighter. Bring awareness, alertness in your experience, because when we go down, because we're not accustomed there, alertness also disappears. That is your buddy, alertness. That's your companion. So are you okay to do one more exercise? Ja?
Eerst even dit opschrijven.
Oké. Klaar? It's important to know, because a dying person goes to the bottom layer if all goes well. The 6 they're not there anymore. And you go into the other 3, and it may be like hallucination, but it's not. You're leaving the 6 levels of consciousness, eye consciousness. Okie dokie. Let's do it a little bit lightly. We do from Kumne dancing. We do 60 and 49. We just do 7 minutes.
4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you counting too there in the peanut gallery?
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
And now silent counting. Otherwise they think we're on the military academy. So at 2 you're down, huh? Okay, Monsieur Andy. Yeah. Go double?
Oh, double.
Why not?
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Double? If you like. Half speed. I want to see if you're counting. Half. Andy is a 9. Doesn't matter, just come along. Double, double?
Which direction? Which direction?
Always up. Can you be perplexed to the sides? left, right, perplexed, left, right, your head turning. Yeah. You're perplexed. My God, what are we doing? I didn't know my life was over. Where was I? All right.
And on shoulders. 1, 2, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Open. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Elbows down. 3, 4 and
Ha!
2, 3, 4. Down. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Embrace. Hold. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Elbows. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down. 2,
Now backwards.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3,
Backwards, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
Okay, last time. Shall we end with forward?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, shall we sit? So let's spend a little time on the process of dying. And the question has come up a few times, so let's start with that. And I don't know exactly, I have to check if the question is, if you are under a lot of pain and you get pain medicine, right? And you get pain medicine, what can you do with all these teachings, right?
How do you stay conscious?
Yeah, how do you stay conscious? So, first of all, nowadays they say that we don't have to worry about pain when we die because there's pain management. They say, I don't know if that's true, they say that nobody has to have pain. I don't know if that's true, but they say. So if you have pain, you can ask for something that will make the pain less and less. At some point, they will start to give you morphine. That's the ultimate remedy, morphine. Once you get morphine, there's no way back. That's it. So as the morphine starts to accumulate, the person goes farther and farther away. The price you pay is a high one because you start to hallucinate, probably, severely. You can. At some point you cannot reach that person anymore. So the pain is really to help you to become disassociated from the experience of being in the body and leaving the body. Whatever I'm going to say, there is never any judgment. If I have pain, you better believe I want morphine. So don't think that somebody who has pain should or should not. That's up to the person. And if the person is not able to decide that, then hopefully there's somebody able to decide that in the benefit of that person. I'm a very bad example in many ways. Like, for example, while you are like this, ideally you give somebody the power to decide when you cannot. It's ridiculous to think that I will always have my mind ready to make decisions. I may not. You can have an accident tomorrow that you are not able to make any decisions. So ideally there is a person assigned in writing. There's a form for that. That you give the power to decide. I don't know about the Netherlands. In the United States, if your heart stops beating, by law they are required to resuscitate you, to try. If I say I don't want to, it doesn't count. Even if I tell everybody don't resuscitate me, it doesn't count. It has to be in writing. There's a form for that. But if I stop breathing, don't resuscitate me. But if you call the first ambulance, they are required to try to resuscitate you. At some point you really don't want to be resuscitated because the oxygen has stopped for too long. So if you have pain, there's something that can be done about it, but you lose consciousness. And then I start to this whole idea about conscious dying. Whatever I say is not going to happen. There's no one way that everybody will experience. It's everything can happen at once. So we're trying to take it apart so that you begin to become familiar with it. There is a contradiction in terms that was very popular in the 70s and the 80s, and that was to die consciously. It's impossible. You don't die consciously because consciousness stops existing. In our definition, consciousness is I consciousness. I see something and I say, the book says, it's a brown horse. That ability is stopping. You cannot die consciously like I'm aware I'm dying. There's no I. There's dying, but there's no I that experiences I'm dying. Before, yes, I'm getting closer to it. I'm beginning to. It's coming nearer. There are some people who can say, I'm in the last stages of my life. If anybody tells you they feel they're dying, you should listen to it. One day my father called me and said, I'm dying, and I happened to live in Holland at that time. So don't say this publicly, but I brought my Tibetan Book of the Dead. I thought, well, let me bring my paraphernalia. So I ran to The Hague where he was sitting, and he said, yes, I'm going to die. I'm so glad you're here. So I was sitting, okay. And he started to sit like this. So he fell asleep. I'm under the impression that he wants to have the security that when he dies, that somebody is there to come. So, but you cannot say, I'm dying. Well, you can say, I feel like something is happening. Try to listen to that, because they may know. For some people, but that's a very small percentage, they do it to have attention. They want attention. But even then, they go. So some people believe in Oriental medicine is that at the moment of birth there's a certain number of breaths that you have for this life. So for many reasons, and this is one, you want to slow down your breathing. The goal is not to live longer, but it's certainly best for your blood pressure and your immune system is to breathe slower. You will feel you have more choices if you breathe slower. But it's also that it will prolong your life if you breathe slower. So nobody can necessarily predict. There are some people who can postpone it. There are some people who are already well on the way to die and they decide to come back. That is possible, apparently. So the process of dying is basically the extinguishing of life. The senses begin to dim. Dim means ze gaan uit. So older people, it's already happening at 50, like almost when you turn 50, you suddenly have to start wearing glasses. Is that true? You know that, no?
Yeah, but it's, to me, that's not, that the eyes are going bad. It's just something normal.
Okay, something normal because you're growing old, your seeing gets less. But some people can see perfectly clear until they die. But the process of dying is that you cannot there's no consciousness with your dying anymore, which means you don't know what you see anymore. You don't know what you hear anymore. You hear, but there is no click to your consciousness. Oh, that's a siren. So it is as if the seeing and the hearing and the feeling and the smelling, as if they're going farther and farther away from you, as if you cannot reach them anymore. You feel disconnected. If you feel this in daily life, it's because the 6 levels of consciousness are dissolving and you're in the bottom 3. This is what a meditator wants. Do not label everything that happens in your mind. So the mind becomes stiller. When the mind becomes stiller, you go down. So for a dying person, they become stiller, not necessarily quieter inside, but they go more to the other side of the senses. There's a void on the other side of the senses. That's where they end up in the next phase, the other side of the senses. In our teachings, you want to learn to go to the other side of the senses because that's where you hear the voice of your being. So in many ways, we're actually trying to have the experience now that the person has when they're dying. The problem is that the person who is dying becomes less and less aware of what is happening. There's not somebody aware of the transition. There can be awareness, but that is only awareness if you have trained to make a shift from I am aware to awareness, from I feel to feeling. The longer I practice Kumne, the more I am convinced that Kumne is a very good support practice to become familiar with the process of dying and to facilitate that process, because the energy needs to come into the central column and go up and out. That's what we do in Kumne too. Now be careful. That doesn't mean that you and me, that we here, as we sit here, that we are so advanced when we die that we do it right. There is no right way. There's only a wrong way. There's no right way. There's only a wrong way. So there's 2 things happening basically, that the energy, the mind energy is receding, is withdrawing from the body and is withdrawing from life as we know it. In other words, you cannot connect anymore to people. You cannot connect anymore to the buildings and the spaces and the memories. You are going further and further away from that. So when a person is dying, don't try to expect from them that they heal the wounds between you. It's too late for them. You can still do it, but don't expect a dying person to make a healing gesture to you. They cannot anymore. Sometimes they can, so there's nothing like one way or the other. But I've seen people who wait for the last moment to get a gesture from their mother or father that will heal all wounds. It may not happen. because they cannot get, even if they would want, they cannot get to that state of consciousness and action anymore. It's, for them it's too late. For you it's not, but for them it's too late. So what happens is the senses diminish. You see less, you hear less, you smell less. But in that transition, there is a lot of seeing going on. That's why they hallucinate, why they talk, according to our idea, they talk nonsense. They're not talking nonsense. They're describing what they see or what they feel. They could be demons. They could be wonderful things, could be images, could be, I don't know, the angel Gabriel, could be anything, but it could also be very, very nasty. Very, very bad. There are some dying people who get very, very angry. They're not angry at anybody, but they have been sort of stuck somewhere, and they try to get out of that, you know. At some point it just doesn't work, so you start cursing and screaming because you need to get out. It's not you anymore, even if they say that you are the most terrible person. This happens. You love you've always loved your parent, they always love you, and now they tell you that you're the worst person on earth. This happens. It's not you. They're trying to get out. So you need to take a distance. Don't be around your parent too much when they are like that. Let other people take care of them. There are people who can, if you have the money for that. There are people trained. They're not affected by it. They know that this is what happens. Especially with an Alzheimer person, they can become an entire different personality. Now I'm going to tell you something weird. It's not just that person's demons that speak. There might be another energy entering that body that is talking. Now, don't get too fascinated by it or too scared, but that's what may happen. So there's a lot going on here, and if there's an empty body or almost empty body, that's a good place to enter. This is what happens with people who are really over the edge. You know, they are not, that's not them necessarily. There might be something else in that body. But don't get too fascinated by it. The point of saying this is that whatever they are saying, it's a release for them. And if it's a close person, then you need to be away. It could be your partner. You lived with this person for 50 years, in good times and in bad times, and now they schelden je uit voor rotte vis, we would say. Now they say the worst things to you. So I can only hope that I will not become like that, but we may be. So as a person who is witnessing this process, don't tell them how to be. They're not dying your death. So there was a very strong movement in the 70s and 80s. There was very beautiful work, spearheaded by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. But the people who didn't have her mindset and her approach to life, they started to apply it like as if it's some kind of hip psychology. And the way they did that is to say, well, if you have cancer of the liver, that means 1, 2, 3. If you have this, then that means that. It doesn't mean that at all. Never, 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 never give the person the impression they did something wrong. It's the first thing a dying person, a young person will say, what did I do wrong? You did nothing wrong. It could be a visiting energy that makes you that. It could be hereditary. It could be the environment. Doesn't matter what it is. The only thing that matters is caring. Care for the person without psychoanalyzing the person. It's really big harm if we, even behind their back, say it's because, you know, she has suppressed her emotions. So, you know, that's why. Don't do that. Don't do that. So the person who is dying, they need two things. One is they need to leave the body. That's number one. And two is they need a direction, where to go. So they need to leave the body. A person who has regret and feels guilty, it's much harder to leave the body than a person who has a fulfilling life. So the person who feels bad about herself has a hard time. The person who feels good about herself has a good time. Now this may not be the case with the next person that you are be with who is dying. Might be the opposite. So it's not black and white, but in general, the person who did not have a fulfilling life has a harder time to leave the body because it's not ready. They say they're ready, they say they're fed up, they say they're tired, they have enough, but they're not ready. A ready person says, I'm ready without any emotions. That's a ready person. Who will reach that state? I don't know. I'm ready without emotions, not by being fed up or by having enough, or I live my life. That's all nice and well, but ready is a fulfilling life. Then it's always ready. A fulfilling life is always ready. If you were to die tomorrow, are you satisfied with where it is at? Not because you're fed up with it, or you have enough, or you're tired. No. Are you ready? And you don't need to say what you still want to do in the rest of your life. You don't need to say that because you don't know. When it opens, everything changes. Now, when you're kind of close, you think, well, I still want to do that. I want to write one more book. I want to give one more seminar. I want to see my grandchildren grow. You know, we have all these things. But once you open up, it's a whole different story. You might see very different things. So a fulfilling life is absolutely the best preparation for a good transition. So the person needs to leave the body. What is happening is, what is leaving the body is called the energy body. What lives inside. You can say life, that's okay. You can call it spirit, okay. Mind, okay. Awareness, okay. There's something living inside the body that is going to leave the body. When the person is dead, whatever was inside is now gone. So if you're with a person who is dying, that's what they have to go through. And it's a little bit, it's of course not like that, but so you don't need to write that down like that, but it's a little bit like the energy body is stapled to the physical body. And that's the tension, the blockages, stitched. Nietjes. Alsof the energy body is geniet. Where the tension is, where there's a blockage, the energy body is not loose. Ideally, the energy body is flowing in the physical body. And the physical body is the holder, but the energy body is in and outside the body. The healthier they are, the bigger the energy body. The healthier mentally. Huh? So when people are sick, it's the physical body that is sick. The energy body is not sick. It is timeless. It's life. That's what you embody. You embody life. Let me check. Is this okay, how it's going?
Yes.
Is this what you want to hear?
Yes.
You want faster?
So the energy body for Alzheimer also can be big.
Perfect shape.
Yeah.
Perfect shape. So you can talk to the Alzheimer person as if she doesn't have Alzheimer, because the energy body doesn't have Alzheimer. It's the physical body. This is a major issue. You'll see people say, I'm feeling old. They say the physical body is old, and they identify with the physical body, and therefore they say old. So you can say, my body is old. My body is tired. My body is empty, finished. But that's not you. You may be finished too, but your energy is not tired. Look at people who are leading a good life. They are sparkling. There's something alive in them, no matter what their age is. And you have 20-year-old kids that look almost dead because the energy is not moving inside. So the energies are dimming, are getting less. In the process, they may hallucinate. And you go, there's many things to do, but you go with the hallucination. You talk in their language. It's the process of separating. So the blockages you feel in Kumne, the knots in the chakras, they make this leaving the body hard. So the fewer blockages, the easier the passage. Now, somebody who does Kumne, like some of us, we do Kumne for 30, 40 years, doesn't mean that our death is easy, eh? Please understand that. This is the theory. But it cannot be much different. For, in general, the people who have flowing energies, that the transition should be easier. But it's not only the blockages in the body, it's the knots in the chakras. Those are the nasty ones. Because they have to do with something that is beyond this lifetime. Maybe because you got from your mother's line or your father's line, or I don't know if you believe this in past lives, but whatever the before is in the chakras. And Rinpoche says that can only be healed through visualization and through color. Colors. Visualization and mantra. Mantra and visualization are, if anything, mantra and visualization are capable to deal with our deepest embedded tensions. And there are three kinds of tensions: on the surface, in the energy channels, and in the chakras. The Kumne that we do releases the first two. And the last one is a tough one, because it's visualization and mantra that does that. And the pat that we say, that is one that is chakra related. Pat. I don't know what we say, ha or oo or boom or something, but it is pat. So there are two things. One is the person, P-H-A-T. One is the person is leaving the body. Well, no, excuse me. First, there is the dimming of the senses. That's one. Two, there is the leaving of the body. And number three is direction. Where this person needs to leave. Where should it go? It doesn't know. It never learned that. There's no GPS. There's no TomTom that says that way. The direction is, I'm not saying it will happen that way, but it should. The direction to be given is through the top of the head. Through the top of the head. I don't know if we can see that or if that's really happening, but that is what is to be said, silently or loudly. I would always recommend to do it silently unless you're really intimate with the person. But don't come with any kind of dharma idea or kumne idea. You're just from being to being, human to human. But you have heard you're supposed to leave through the head. They don't know that, so what do? You're smart. You say, go to Uncle Billy, whoever died before. Right? Let's say that the son died before the mother, and now the mother is dying, and the son's name was Emerson. You say to the mother, go to Emerson. Has nothing to do with whether it's true or not, but then she knows the direction to go, which is out of the body. I don't know if this is for everybody like this, but people who have lived together for a long time, let's say they're married or they're partners, and the other partner has left already, you say, go to the other partner, because it gives them a sense of where to go. There's no place they're going to. They just have to leave the body. So they need to leave through the top of the head. Once that is happening, there is a very definite instruction, and that it comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Go to the light. Go to the light. Wherever it seems lighter in your experience. Because in the light experience, you might be able to make choices. In the dark, you are not. The light in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is called peaceful deities. The dark is wrathful deities. So go to the light. What makes it lighter? Go to somebody who's already deceased. If the person is very Catholic, you can say go to Maria or go to God. You need to know what is important for them. So if you come in the last minute, that is much harder. You need to know what is important for that person. Their partner who has left already, or is it God, or is it Maria, or... And in Tibetan Buddhism, you go to Padmasambhava in the Nyingma tradition. If that means something to you now, if not, then what does that mean? But light is clear for everybody. Light is light. So there are three things. One is the senses as we know them are not reliable anymore. They cannot think coherently anymore. Some can, till the very end. My father had dinner and he died. So he was having conversations. But the process that you hear now goes very fast. Sometimes it takes a flash of a second and sometimes it takes 6 months. So there's not one way of doing this. So number one, the senses are dimming. Number two, it has to leave the body. And number three is the direction.
And what about the thinking? Normally it senses and it thinks something.
Thinking is number 6 sense. They cannot think anymore.
I see, yeah.
It's very strange, you know, that like when you are with a person who is becoming forgetful, it's very refreshing in the beginning. Because they're not holding on to thoughts. It's very nice to be a little bit with the very beginning of Alzheimer people, because that's how you want to live. They're not holding on to anything. It's really very, very nice. But it gets worse. And then the hard stages, but I won't talk about Alzheimer, the hard stage is when they know that they can fall away again into total numbness, total oblivion. They can be gone and they come back and they're so scared because they know they're going to go back but they don't know when. So what we're trying to do in Kumne meditation, we'll talk about the more important part about it, about the nature of being, but what we try to do in Kumne is to not label experience but to feel instead. In the beginning it's witnessing. I'm experiencing something in the body. That's nice. That's the beginning, but that's not it. You want to enter that feeling experience so that the feeling experience becomes number one instead of the I becoming number one. Now this we do during daily life too, right? If you need to prepare this room, let's say 2 people prepare this room, they're not all the time thinking about I have to do this and you should do that and why am I doing more than you and I always have to do the dishes and you never do it. It's not like that. The dishes need to be done and somebody's doing the dishes, right? So the dishes are number one. The room is number one, not the I who is doing it. That you can learn in Kumne by going into the feeling experience. There's still a unique human being there, but the experience is not focused around the I. Whenever there's the I at the center, the pain will exponentially increase. I'm in pain, why me, why now, I hate it, I don't want to, it makes it worse and worse and worse. The person is dying, so focus on the process of dying. The dying is number one, not the I. And of course we all know in theory the best way to die is to surrender to what's happening. So in Kumne you can learn to surrender to the feeling experience. Don't stay so much reporting to yourself. Surrender to what's happening. Now, what is really important in these teachings? Yes, the senses are dimming. Yes, you're leaving the body. Yes, you need to know a direction. But what is the environment in which that takes place? Is the person cursing till the very end? Vloeken. Then the environment is a vloek, is a curse. You want to make the environment most conducive for this process. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean tea lights and candles. What is the most conducive? The most conducive is that the person feels good about her life. That's the most important. You keep telling the person that. Even if you feel you're lying a little bit, because what do you really know about that person? They have to feel good about their lives. A person who feels bad not only increases the difficulty of dying, but let's assume for the moment that it might be true, the rebirth is much more complicated. You don't want to have the next phases, whatever they are, to be burdened by feeling bad about yourself. That really contracts anything that may happen after. In these teachings, the best environment we can create is by chanting mantras. But if you never chant a mantra, well, you can do it because it works somehow, but ideally it's already something that you know the value of. The problem with chanting mantras is with the chanter, not the mantra. Om Ahum Vajaguru Hum Om Ahum Vajaguru Pema Siddhi Hum Om Ahum Vajaguru Pema Siddhi Hum Om. You chant a mantra as if it's for the last time. It's something to learn. And maybe you think I have pink colored glasses, you know what that means? Roze bril. And I probably do, but when I see Rinpoche chant, he is so into it, there's nothing else that matters. Well, I'm sure there is, but he's totally in each mantra. We can learn that too. When you do very precise work, you cannot think of something else. You're totally into it. You know, when you are, in the old days, diapers had pins, you know, diapers and pins. If you change the diaper of a baby and you think of something else, you know where the pin goes, right? So that's why they changed from pins to stickers. So it won't happen to the kid anymore. But if you are not there, then the sticker is here, and the diaper is crooked. So you make it a piece of art in which the baby can still breathe, but yet do the function of the diaper. So it's a piece of art. It's not only when we die we chant a mantra. It's how do you care? How do we care? And it's an art. To care is an art. I make the mistake to care about some things and not about others. That is really a flaw. I care much more about Dharma money than my own money. I much more care about Dharma administration than my own administration. So I don't know what your problem is, but you should know what your problem is. Because you need encouragement to refine that. Your administration matters. Sometimes people who work the whole day, you should look at their room, it's a mess. And outside, oh, they make wonderful paintings and beautiful tsatsas, but inside their room, you don't want to spend a second there. It's not good. Your room is very, very essential. So that way of caring, that's how you want to chant a mantra too. The mantra was originally translated with magical formulas. And that's it's very nice. It's not what it is, but it's very nice. Mantra means protection of mind. They are keys that open the chakras. That's what they are. Keys to open the chakra in different formations. So an open, naked mind has many capabilities. It can heal, it can be precise, it can engineer, it can care, it can attain higher wisdom. Lots and lots and lots and lots of mantras, because the mind can manifest in lots and lots and lots of ways. Now the mantra that we will become very good at is Om Mani Padme Hum. Because that is the healing for the dying person and for the people who stay behind, to not be afraid. Shall we end here? So let's do a closing gesture. The right hand on the top of the head, or a hand on the top of the head, the other one on the chest. Then the upper hand goes to the belly and the lower hand goes to the throat. You're supposed to feel. And then reverse. And then reverse. And then reverse. And then reverse. Well, thank you for being together. It may be the last time.
Om Mani Padme Hum Re. 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 Om Mani